Welcome to December 2025 Nature News. We're bringing you the latest headlines from the wild places that shape our world, and sometimes headlines that take us by surprise. From hikers trapped in quicksand to ancient lakes returning after decades, here's what nature has been telling us in December. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forest to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello, everyone. I hope you guys had a great new year. I took last week off, so that's why this episode is late, and I hope that you don't mind. I just wanted to enjoy my holidays and not be like cram recording something in before the end of the month when it just so happened to be a pretty big holiday. So I appreciate you being understanding. And yes, we're going to discuss all of the nature news that happened last month in the month of December. I also want to get your input. I started doing something new with my episodes to do a land acknowledgement for the national parks or national forests that we discuss. And I want to get your feedback on that. I've seen a few comments that are overly negative about it. So I want to hear what you have to say besides the people that have already commented. So let me know. But let's just jump into nature news. So our first story takes us to Red Rocks in Arches National Park in Utah. On December 7th, 33-year-old hiker Austin Dirks became stuck in a patch of quicksand, not while climbing or scrambling over rocks, but on a section of the Hayduke Trail, which is a popular long distance backpacking route in Arches National Park. Now, Austin was partway through a 20-mile trek when his foot sank up to his knee in seemingly ordinary sand near Courthouse Wash. He struggled for a bit, and after struggling on his own, he actually used his satellite messenger to call for help because there was no cell service where he was within the park. Park rangers and Grand County search and rescue crews responded. Then they had to use ladders, boards, and shovels to make a safe path and eventually free him after about 2 hours. So that is a actually quick rescue from what I was thinking it would be to get someone out of quicksand. And I'm just wondering how far he sank into the sand before he was eventually freed. Now, while images and films make quicksand look dramatic and deadly, the real danger often comes from exposure and exhaustion while you're stuck, especially in cold deserts. Austin was extremely lucky, and his story is a reminder that even experienced hikers and backpackers can encounter unpredictable terrain. So, I also want to point out that he was able to call for help because he had a satellite phone. Now, imagine if he did not have a satellite phone. That would have been a completely different ending to his story. He might have died out there. If no one is going out there, no one's hiking, no one sees him or hears him call for help, there would be no way to know that someone needed help. So I am very, very thankful that he was smart and had a satellite phone with him because that was definitely a life or death situation. Now, on to our next story out of Nevada. Investigators may have finally found closure in a disappearance. On December 5th, authorities discovered human remains beside Nevada's Carson River near Trainwreck Rapid and Brunswick Canyon, and these remains were believed to be kayaker Robert Lawson White, who was 52 years old when he vanished in June 2023. Robert had gone kayaking that summer with his 59-year-old partner, James Martin, and was expected to return the same day, but neither one of them did. James's remains were recovered in July 2023, but Robert had never been found until now. Detectives and Carson City Search and Rescue located the site, preserved the area, and recovered the remains, along with clothing and other personal items. While official confirmation is pending, officials believe the remains to be Robert White's remains more than 2 years after he was last seen. This is just another reminder that water can be extremely dangerous. And if you're on the water for any reason, always, always wear a life preserver. Our next story comes from California. In Southern California's San Gabriel Mountains, a rescue mission turned into a tragedy. On December 29th, 2025, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department responded to a distress call for a 19-year-old hiker who fell about 500 feet near the treacherous Devil's Backbone Trail on Mount Baldy, or otherwise known as Mount San Antonio. As search teams were deployed, including helicopter crews, severe winds prevented a safe aerial rescue. Deputies located the injured teen during the aerial search, but in the same area also found two other hikers who were not initially reported missing, possibly unrelated hikers who had already succumbed to exposure or injuries. Now, later that night, an air medic lowered to the scene and confirmed that all three individuals were deceased. Search and rescue efforts have been hampered by harsh winds and terrain, and authorities temporarily closed the mountain to public access for safety. Mount Baldy is known for steep cliff lines, shifting winter conditions, and a history of emergency responses. This weekend alone, crews responded to multiple rescues and recoveries, reinforcing the dangers of winter mountaineering, even for experienced hikers. So I don't even know what to say about this one. When I saw the headline, I was completely like, "Oh my gosh, this one teen, 19-year-old, fell 500 feet." I mean, that I think would kill you instantly, and I'm wondering if someone else witnessed it and called, but basically, as I said, when they were doing an aerial search, they found 2 other people that were, I don't know, they were already deceased, and it's crazy how often that this instance happens when there are, like, searches where they find other bodies, and it's kind of normal, and it's really shocking. And honestly, the name of the trail, the Devil's Backbone, we obviously know how it gets its name. I mean, we see this all the time in nature and the outdoors. There are lots of places and trails and just landmarks that have these very negative connotative names, and that's for good reason. Usually they're typically named um very accurately in my opinion. So, just a reminder, it's winter, guys. You need micro spikes, you need satellite beacons, you need warm clothing so that if there was an accident and you did slip and fall and you survived, you would at least be warm enough to survive until search crews got to you. I personally do not do any crazy hiking, in the winter because I don't really like hiking in the cold. To me, it's a little bit more dangerous because of ice, even though I wear spikes. And I, in the winter, would much rather be cozied up with some tea or hot cocoa and reading a book. But the people that get outside in the winter, there are just extra precautions that you have to take to ensure your safety. Now, our next story isn't really month specific, but I did see the headline and I thought it was interesting. So it's about a guy named Carl Bushby, and he basically is like a world traveler. So, in a story of perseverance that spans continents, Carl Bushby, a British adventurer who has walked thousands of miles as a part of his multi decade attempt to circumnavigate the globe on foot. Yes, he really is doing that. He's reportedly nearing completion of his journey after 27 years of traveling. Carl began his trek in 2005 and he crossed vast landscapes, including mountain ranges, frozen straits, and remote wilderness. While the details continue to unfold, recent interviews suggest that his final leg may be ahead as he closes in on making good on one of the most extraordinary human powered odysseys in history. So this man is really, really close to completing walking the entire earth on foot. And I think that is so badass. And I would love, I don't know if he's going to write a book or whatever, but I would love to read whatever he would write. Even if it's just an article or a set of articles, I would love to read about his experiences. Now, back to California. We're going to talk about Death Valley's ancient lake, and it returned. Temporary lakes in the desert basins are rare, but Death Valley National Park has made headlines as heavy rains have filled parts of its ancient lake bed. Once home to Lake Manly thousands of years ago, the valley's lowest elevations have transformed into shimmering water again, drawing birds, fish, and visitors. This phenomenon, triggered by unusually heavy precipitation, is a brief but dramatic reminder of how dynamic desert environments can be, even in places known for extreme heat and dryness. The water may not last for long, but for now, the valley offers a fleeting glimpse into its prehistoric past. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, this happened maybe last year or the year before last. Um, and it's happening again. So I think it's incredibly unusual, but maybe that's on climate change. But I've seen photos and videos and pictures and it looks so pretty. I have been to this area, but not while it's underwater, and I would honestly love to see this prehistoric lake filled up. That would be amazing. Now to Utah. In Utah, scientists have made a thoughtful choice while naming a newly identified species from the Great Salt Lake ecosystem. According to KSL, the species was given a name that reflects indigenous history and language associated with the region, recognizing the cultural significance of the lake for the native peoples. I'm going to try to say this name. Let's see about it. Okay, so it looks like it's pronounced Wo-Abi or worm in the Shoshone language. So that was their homage to the Shoshone Nation's ancestral land by naming this new species. With the Great Salt Lake facing ongoing ecological pressures, including shrinking shorelines and rising salinity, this discovery underscores both the fragile biodiversity that persists in the basin and the importance of acknowledging the people who have lived within these landscapes for centuries. In the Pacific Northwest, a perplexing missing persons investigation continues. 26-year-old Alicia Bulia, I hope I'm saying that right, of St. Louis, was reported missing after traveling to visit Olympic National Park in mid November. She was last seen November 18th, texting her mother, "I'm safe," before contact ceased. Her rental vehicle, which was a 2025 black Ford Bronco Sport, was found on November 30th parked near the Solduke trailhead inside the park. Search teams have used dogs, drones, and foot patrols to comb the rugged river corridor. Searchers were complicated Searches were complicated by weather, and officials have transitioned to a clue responsive phase, meaning that searchers return as new evidence is found. Her family members and authorities continue to urge anyone with information to come forward. Now, I included this even though it was technically November, but the searching was still going on for her this in December. And so I just am interested to see how this plays out. Hopefully she will be found. However, it has been over a month, and most of us know what that means. So I hope she's found. I think this is a very interesting thing. All she said to her mom was, "I'm safe," and her car was found at a trailhead. And so that is very eerie. Could be foul play, could be she got lost and died of exposure. We just don't know much yet about this missing persons. So I'll maybe when I see an update, I will include that in a future nature news if possible. But not all news from the wild is grim. In a heartwarming seasonal story, volunteers known as backcountry Santas trekked into remote routes um, on Christmas to deliver gifts and essential supplies to families across the Navajo Nation. This initiative reaches communities that can be isolated by weather and distance during the holidays, bringing a bit of joy to families who might otherwise go without. A reminder that even in backcountry spaces, human kindness travels far. So these people are volunteer pilots, and yes, they're known as backcountry Santas, and they delivered Christmas gifts to the Navajo Nation on Christmas. This mission involved 90 airplanes that delivered over 2,200 boxes this year, which is a 37% increase from last year. Now, this operation began in 2019 as a small, simple idea with about a dozen airplanes, and it's now grown into a mission that this year involved about 90, like I said earlier. Inside the boxes is a mix of food, hygiene items, warm clothing, and toys for children. Backcountry Santa was created by a man named Mike Huish, who's the president of Huish Outdoors in Salt Lake City. And he started this after his recollection of a similar story involving a helicopter pilot delivering items to the Navajo Nation. So this has been going on for now going to be 7 years. And Mike says he's already planning for next year's mission. He's like, this is what he said. I mean, literally, as we're delivering these goods, we're thinking, wow, what do we get next year? And we start thinking and really understanding what we need to do. Once the deals come up is when we start shopping. So I think that's amazing. And I would love to find out more information about how to donate to this because I think it's much needed and such a fun Christmas tradition. So, if I ever find out information about that, I will link it in the show notes. December's stories span danger, discovery, loss, and resilience, from quicksand rescues to echoes of ancient lakes. They remind us that nature is alive with surprises and that the wilderness doesn't take breaks for holidays or seasons. Whether you're planning your next outdoor adventure or simply listening from home, respect the land and preparation can make all the difference between a story that ends in tragedy and one that ends in wonder. As always, recreate responsibly and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. You can also join us on Patreon for early and ad free content. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.